I've been debating making a video for months now, so I figured I got this idea. Let me just get this out of the way. And before I get too deep into it, yes, my fire alarm needs batteries. Yes, it's gonna beep every 15 seconds. Now with that out of the way, let me start yapping. Well, chances are if you're seeing this, you're somebody that already knows me. You probably already know stuff about me, but just in case you don't, I'm Miguel. I'm almost 21 years old, which is insane for me to say. I turned 21 in like less than 2 weeks now. But that's besides the point. You're looking at the title, you're like, why you aren't successful in business or life, whatever the hell I'm putting down. And I just kind of want to sit down and yap for a second about my thoughts on that. And you might think you might not want to listen to me because you hear my fire alarm that I need to put batteries into, just beeping in the background continuously. But I actually took something that was as simple as a little hobby and turned it into a business that made me over $100,000 last year. Now, compared to all the people you see online saying I make $100,000 a month, $200,000 a month, that doesn't sound like a lot. But to someone like me that's from a super small town in Ohio, literally like damn near the middle of nowhere, doing something that I just started doing for fun, it's crazy to me to say that I made that much. And I have goals and aspirations and dreams of doing $100,000 a month, and I'll get on to that later in this because this is something that's affected me more than I can even put into words in the past couple of months. I just have an unwavering desire to be great. And it's not like it's to be great at one specific thing. I just want to be great in life. I want to make sure everyone around me lives the greatest life that they possibly can. Now, before I get too off track, the reason this pertains to everyone else is because, like I said, I already did it one time. A lot of people are looking, how do I make $10,000 a month online? How do I make my first money online? How do I make money without getting a job? The thing is with all of these things is they could pertain to any other aspect of life, whether you want to get a job, whether you want to go to school, whether you want to just better yourself as a person, whether you want to start going to the gym, whether you want to start eating better. Literally all of these things, they fall in the same spots. Doing the same things in different categories will lead to the same thing. I don't know how to really explain that in a good way, but let's say putting air in your tire and putting gas in your car. You're doing the same thing essentially to get to a different goal. And while I say I've had goals and aspirations of getting to these $100,000 months and stuff, I've had these goals and dreams since I was 15 years old, 14 years old, 13 years old. But if you would even go back to me then and tell me then that I am where I am now, I'd be ecstatic. And what I've done for the last probably 4 years of my life is I resold used clothes. I literally sold vintage clothes online. I would go to thrift stores, garage sales, flea markets. I would buy off of other vendors. I would do any way possible to get inventory and sell it online. Now, it started with me just wholesaling. I had seen people on YouTube doing this. They would go to the thrift store, find vintage clothes, sell them online. And I was like, wow, it's crazy to me that you can even make a living doing that. Someone like me, like I said, I'm 21. I was born in 2004. In 2014, 2015, I was 10, 11 years old. I came across FaZe Rain. I came across FaZe Clan. I came across all these different YouTubers. I seen FaZe Rain retire his mom. And as someone like me who didn't grow up with the greatest financial situation, my mom worked 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Seeing all of that in real life, and then seeing someone like that online make that kind of money to where he could retire his mom off of making YouTube videos, to where his principal was telling him to drop out of school because he was making more money than him. Stuff like that to me, it just clicked at a young age. So once I got a little older and I seen something that I could actually do, I just jumped on it. And I'd say at around the age of 11 or 12, I came across the idea of like reselling clothes. I came across people who did it. I came across Round 2. I seen them selling to celebrities and stuff. I seen the storefronts and I was like, wow, this is crazy. Clearly they make a good amount of money doing this. I could probably do that too. But this was also at the same time when stuff like drop shipping was becoming a popular thing and people were falling into that. So I seen all these different things, and this has been a problem with me since then. Seeing all these things and not knowing what to do. It's like, he's doing this here, he's doing this here, but he's doing this here. Well, this is the easiest for me to do, but this has the best long-term goals. And just get caught up in all of that. That's what I would always do. I would get caught up in all of this stuff. And that was the reason why I never found any success. So fast forward to when I was a little older, 17, 18, I was doing some things that you probably shouldn't be doing to making money. All these different things on Snapchat, scamming people on Snapchat, these other things that I'm not really going to get into. Stuff that everybody 6, 7 years ago was doing online. And it's just that I was super young getting into all of this. Of course, I didn't know any better than it's just easy money. So originally, I got got myself my first like $2,000-$3,000 from doing some things I probably shouldn't have been doing. I was probably around like 16 at this point, 17. I had been into like the idea that I was going to be rich one day was always back here. The idea of school was already gone for me. I was done with school. Getting rich was in the back of my head. I knew one day it's going to happen. And I know I sit here and talk about it like it's already happened, but that's because still to this day, I know it's coming and I'm closer than I ever have been in my life before, and I can confidently say that. So around 16, 17 is when I had got back into the whole reselling thing. I came across an old friend that I'd been friends with in elementary school named Trent. He introduced me to his brother's best friend. They owned a store that did what I wanted to do, what I was watching people do. These people selling clothes online, these people that had these stores. They had a store. It was 20 minutes from my house. So hearing this information and everything, my first reaction was, okay, I need to start selling stuff to that. So I took them a bunch of clothes. First time I ever took them, I brought them probably 3 totes full of clothes. They bought like 4 items from me. But from then on, I knew what they wanted to buy. I knew how much they were paying, and I spent all day, every day going out and getting that. And within the first couple months, there were times where I spent all of my money on inventory, stuff that they didn't even want. And I was down to my last dollars, asking them to please buy my stuff. But it was at this point where I completely locked into one thing and knew what I was doing. Now, I knew this wasn't like a machine that was going to get me rich. I knew this wasn't that, but I knew I had something. I had something that could make me $100 a day. If I really put my all into it, I can make $100 profit every day. And as someone who grew up where I did, in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, $100 a day, my mom's working 2 jobs to make $100 a day. If I can come in and provide that doing something I love, then why wouldn't I just jump on it? So I'd say from probably 17 through 19, I would skip school. I remember going to the Goodwill outlet, which is so popular now. You'll see kids on Instagram and TikTok, they're reselling clothes, they're going to the Goodwill outlet. This is all a big thing now, but this wasn't a big thing back then. I was skipping school almost every day to drive an hour away to go to the bins to hopefully make $100 profit in a day. I remember having grown adults, 25, 30, 35 years old, telling me I needed to go to school, this, that, and the other, which they were right, but I knew what I was doing. I knew that I was building all of this to hopefully one day see myself in a better position. And it's honestly in those times, I think I learned some of the most valuable lessons that I'll ever learn. I remember talking to my dad's best friend one day, and my dad's best friend owns a couple of used car dealerships. He does very well for himself. To this point, and even more so to this day, he's one of the most successful people I've ever met in my life. And fresh out of high school, I had been doing this for probably a little over a year, probably a year and a half now. It's not like I was making a crazy amount of money. I was maybe making $400 or $500 a week. Other kids were making half that, working a regular job. I was selling clothes, getting the best clothes that I could, showing up to school in the coolest clothes that I had, and I was getting paid to do it essentially. But I also knew that I did not want to have a boss. I never wanted to have a boss. Me being 21, it was never the financial freedom thing. It was never a lot of the things that people talk about today. My main drive from day one has been, I want to retire my mom. I want my mom to never have to work another day in her life. I want to be rich, and I want my friends to be rich, and not on like an egotistical thing, but just for the fact that growing up, we never had that. That was never an option for me. My dad's best friend offered me a position to be a manager essentially at his car lots and said, eventually, if you get good at this, you could own some of these with me too. And he explained to me that the people that were working for him now that were running lots were making 60 grand a year plus. And let me mind you that I live in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. To this day in 2025, if you make $60,000 or more, that you are fine. $60,000 a year where I live is probably like $150,000 a year plus anywhere else. But at the time, I knew I had this belief in myself that I could get this to the point where I have gotten it today, which we'll get to in a second because it's no longer. I've retired the business, but I knew I could get it to this point. I told him I appreciate the offer and I know it's a great opportunity, but I don't want to have to answer to anyone, which I look back on and I kind of cringe at because there is a point where you do need a mentor, you need someone to guide you, which to this day I've been lacking. I've never had someone to directly guide me. Everything I've gotten has been off of word of mouth, hearing what works, trying it myself, comparing what works, and just continuing on whatever is working. Now see, in the business that I'm in, I've had multiple grown adults, grown men, twice my age, 10 years older than me, see the business models that I'm doing and try to copy it and to not have the same amounts of success as me. And that's not to say that I'm the best at what I do. There's people that do 10 times as much business as me in what I do. That just goes to say that I know the systems that work, and developing the systems has helped me a lot. I think turning down the position at that lot helped me a lot at the time to be like, okay, it is only me. No one's coming to save me. And if somebody was, I declined it. So it's kind of just all on me at this point. I continued wholesaling like I did, locked in. And I got to the point where I was making probably $700-800 a week wholesaling. Now, wholesaling was just me going out, finding the clothes for say $3 a piece, and I was selling them to a store for probably $12 a piece, who was then going to go sell them for probably $30 a piece. Now, at this time, I was probably only selling to one store, so I started doing these events too. And when I started doing these events, I realized, okay, if I bring all these clothes, I have more clothes than a lot of people. I would just go around buying all the clothes I could. If I could make a couple dollars on it, I was buying it. It didn't matter. So I would go to these events, I would have the best prices possible, I would bring all my clothes, and there was one day, I can't remember exactly how old I was, I would have to check the dates, but I was probably 18. Me and my buddy Trent produced almost $10,000 in a single day at one of these events. Now, this event was literally in the front yard of a vintage store in Akron, Ohio. You could ask people to this day at the biggest events, if you do $4,000 in a day, you had a crazy killer day. And these are like usually weeks of inventory saved up. But me, I was only wholesaling, making my money. So any leftover inventory, I just threw to the side. I wasn't listing in line at all. So we go to this event, we wholesale a lot of stuff. That really put into my mind that I could make a living off of this. And I made sure that I could do that. And the one thing that helps me more than anything was I put myself around like-minded people. At one point or another, I stumbled across a buddy of mine named Garment Trafficker, Andrew. I bought some clothes off him at an event, and I didn't know that he would really become as much of a factor in my life as he did. To this day, this is one of my closest friends, and we met over 2 years ago now. It was probably closer to 3 years ago now I think about it. He put me in the position to where I was around so many other people that were doing this. Along with my friend Dylan, who I forgot to mention at the beginning, actually got me to go to the Goodwill outlet at the first time after I did my first event where I horrifically failed. And that's what a lot of people don't like to talk about, is the failures. And I even forget to mention that because I've been doing this for so long, I like to just pick out the good parts. But I did my first ever event, horribly failed. He recommended me to go out to the bins, yada, yada, yada. Probably a year later, I ran into my buddy Andrew, and he just put me around so many people that were making money. And in the way that he did this was just completely by chance. He got added to a group chat with all these different people, and we were all selling on the same platform. All of us learned together. When one of us made a mistake, all of us made that mistake and knew to learn from it just then. It advanced so many of us so quickly. I seen other people in this chat making $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month. And I was sitting over there still wholesaling, like, why don't I just go sell online like these guys and make my numbers like this? So that's exactly what I did. I studied what they were selling. I locked in completely. I cut out all the noise. I cut out all the $1 million ideas, and I sat and I locked in. I studied what was selling, what prices I could pay for them, how quickly they would move for what prices, and I went and I acquired those items, and I just started going. I made about $40,000 in 6 months, which was insane to me. So I just kept doing it. And one thing I have also learned, when something is working, do not stop. That doesn't go to say put all your eggs in one basket. Having a backup plan within your main plan, I'm not saying to have a backup plan, but a backup plan within your main plan. So let's say I was selling on eBay and I'm doing $10,000 a month. If my sales drop $3,000, I know that I can go wholesale to this many other sellers to make up for that $3,000 that I'm losing that month. And that's what I mean. Because at one point or another, everything did start to fall. The platforms we were selling on kind of crashed. To be fair, it hasn't really come back since. And with a lot of new people getting into my business, that leads me into why I'm shutting down my business. Now, I've been working with a buddy who's been doing my pictures and everything, and our whole goal was to build this to a huge business. It just gets harder and harder by the day with this because there's more people coming into it. The thing with reselling is it's more of a self-employed kind of thing. Can you make millions of dollars in it? Yes, but it's going to take you years upon years upon years to gain the knowledge and experience and connections to make millions of dollars doing this. And just in my personal belief, there's thousands of other businesses that if you put in the same amount of work, you will make more money. That's just my personal belief. And I have an unwavering love for this business, but it's just not for me anymore. I've lost the enjoyment for it. And to be fair, I told myself when I started actually making money with this, before that first month when I made my $40,000, when I was still sitting on $5,000, $6,000 in my bank account, I was telling myself, when I get $20,000 in my bank account, I'm done, because that's enough money to where I can go become financially free. That's when something like that came into my mind. And it's not like, oh, I just want to sit here and do nothing and make my money work, but I want to build a real business that can produce millions upon millions of dollars a year. I know I'm super capable of that, and completely locking into the business I did for the amount of time that I did has given me the belief to even move on from that. So with all of this being said, if I could say anything, it's just lock into whatever you're doing. For me, it was always drop shipping, stocks, making a clothing brand, stuff like that. I would want to get into it, but it was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. There's this cost, there's these things that I don't know how to do, but I found the thing that I could do and I just did it. If you're like, oh, I want to be a content creator, but blah, 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 just learn how to edit, become an editor, and learn what content is doing good from those people. And you'll eventually just know how to be a good content creator before even actually being one. I know how to run a business without having run an actual business before. I don't consider reselling a business because, like I said, it's more so just being self-employed. I remember seeing a long time ago, I believe it was Mark Cuban, it was somebody, he said, I know people who work really hard on their business that make $60,000 a year. And that's true. And I found myself in that position. But if I never got myself to that position, I don't think I'd have enough confidence to just take the jump that I'm taking now. I've completely shut down my business, no revenue coming in. I'm sitting on a bunch of inventory that I will probably wholesale off and move somewhat soon. I'm still paying my contractor every week. Although he's working on a new business with me, it's not producing any money yet. So that's coming out of pocket. I'm paying bills still. But locking in, and I know it sounds stupid locking in, but completely giving myself an unwavering belief in myself that I'm going to make money doing what I was doing, which was reselling, giving it all the time of the day. And I know that was, this sounded quick, but there was 10, 12, 14-hour days in between there. There were days I made $0. There were days I was in the negatives, and there were days I made $10,000. You really just need to have the belief in yourself. If you can make $10 a day, you can make $100 a day, you can make $500 a day, you can make $1,000 a day. And I know that I'm not rich yet. I know I'm not the person to look at and be like, oh, look at the car he drives, look at the house he's in, look at what he's done. But I've made more than my teachers as someone who had a 1.7 GPA in high school. I was not going to graduate if I didn't get put in a specific program that basically just passed me. And a lot of the people that are out here looking for these business ideas and stuff haven't even gotten to the point I'm at yet. And they're trying to just skip these steps because they see somebody that got really lucky in a business model and got to 50K a month in a year. That does not happen to anyone. The amount of people that happens to is so minuscule. You could probably fit them all within a mile. So don't get caught up in the hype. Lock in on something and focus in. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I've been caught up for the last 6 months trying to figure out what to do. Oh, should I do this, do this, do this? And it reminded me of me 4 or 5 years ago in the same position. I have to remind myself I'm on a bigger scale now, and that's all it is. I do the same thing on a bigger scale. And if you're someone that can make $100 a week, just do it on a bigger scale. Turn it to $1,000 a week. But it's going to just take connections, networking, building, an unwavering work ethic, a belief in yourself like no other. Do you know how crazy most people looked at me when I told them that I was going to thrift stores and reselling the clothes and that was how I was making a living? But after you can show them over 6 figures in revenue, after you can show them over their yearly salary from it, people look at it a lot different. But I find it that a lot of people that remind me of myself 4 or 5 years ago are just looking at people like me who are slowly building like they just want to skip past that. You cannot skip past the process. And hopefully I go on to document this journey of me turning in from 6 figures a year to 6 figures a month, because that is my next goal. My goal for the end of 2025 is to hit a $50,000 month. And to be quite honest with you, I've made no money the first 3 months of the year. And it's simply from stressing myself out looking at all these different options. And in a way, this video is for me to remind myself that if I just completely dedicate myself to something, I will get way farther than I could have ever imagined. Those 7 figures could happen way sooner than I could ever dream of if I just lock in. And there's points in time where I get depressed because I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 18 when I was 11, 12, 13. I thought I was gonna have it all figured out by then. But like I said, if I went back and told me then that I am where I am now, I wouldn't even be able to believe that. So whatever you're wanting to do, even if you don't see it making you $1 million, just get started. Business is not for everyone. And especially if you're shooting for the stars from the beginning, business is not for you. The whole wave of people wanting to make money online, it's a bubble. It's gonna pop at some point, because back when I started doing this, I got looked at like crazy for telling people that I was going to be a millionaire. I seen FaZe Rain retire his mom. I'm going to make YouTube videos and retire my mom. I'm going to make money online and retire my mom. But now it's like the norm and the bubble's going to pop. So hopefully this can bring you back down to reality a little bit. If you're ever feeling stressed about it, or if you're someone that already knows me and has seen what I've done, and this is the first thing that gets you to be like, okay, I want to go produce $100,000 a year for my business too. Everyone has to start somewhere, and completely locking into whatever you're doing and just actually doing it. People underestimate the power of just doing the work that needs to be done. When you neglect the work, you quite literally have nothing else. There's no product, there's no reward, there's nothing that comes out of it. And like I said, this goes the same for a job, this goes the same for school, this goes the same for the gym, this goes the same for eating healthy. Just do it. You underestimate the power of just doing the thing. And yeah, I've been there before. I was there yesterday, today. I literally was there today. Every second that I do the new business that I'm starting, I question it and I stop and I go watch a video like, this is how I made this much money doing this. And it's not the way to do it. Just work on what you know you need to. I learned more from trial and error than I've ever learned from a YouTube video. I've learned more from hearing something from a YouTube video and actually putting it into the world and trial and error. Then you're never going to get anywhere just consuming information. Nothing comes out of that. Put in the work, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. You'll be astonished with the results you can produce. And hopefully I look back at this like, wow, I was right. And I followed what I just said to a T. And in 1 year from now, instead of a 6-figure business, I run a 7-figure business. But starting something from zero, I understand how hard it is because I'm doing it again. I know I probably went off on a lot of different tangents. I'm not really good at keeping track when I'm just talking, but hopefully you gained something from this. If you didn't, whatever, but hopefully you did. I really wish I would have recorded the process of my old business and everything I did because I know a lot of people would have liked to see that, but we are where we are. And it's a really bittersweet moment for me to even say that I'm shutting down my old business. Like, it doesn't even feel real. Like, I feel like I need to go there right now and get stuff done. With that being said, just do the work you know you need to. Take baby steps, and 2-3 years from now, doing it every day, 10 hours a day, you'll be shocked at where you are.